I'm Thomas Mai.
And I'm Zane Weber.
The Craving Creativity podcast is our cry for help. A way to help ourselves as creatives to talk about how we get inspired, how we create, but also how we deal with stress, mental illness, and everything in between.
Now, if you're creative, you, like us, have most likely always been seen as the black sheep of your family and always making different choices than what 90% of normal people might do. Not going for the safe choice, but always living a little on the edge.
With the Craving Creativity podcast, it is our hope to create a safe space where we can talk about being creative. We want to build a community of like-minded creatives and help each other. Subscribe, email us, and be part of the creative journey.
Welcome to Craving Creativity. I'm one of your hosts, Zane Weber, here with
Thomas Mai.
And what we're doing here is trying to create a safe space for creatives to talk about how to be creative and get the most out of your projects. Basically,
yeah.
That is why we're both here. We're both creative people who are trying to incorporate creativity into our day-to-days.
Yes.
So we wanted to share that journey with all of you. So, Thomas, you picked the topic for today.
Yes.
What is it that you would like to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about setting a goal, right? Mm-hmm. Having a dream. I want to write a book. I want to make a film. I want to do that painting. I want to do a musical, whatever it is, the goal you have from a creative point of view, but then sticking with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to have a dream. It's easy to wake up and feel, you have that late night. If you're a night owl, you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and maybe you had a glass of wine, and, you can do anything, and you come up with these ambitious plan, right? Or if you're a morning person, you wake up full of energy, oh, today's going to be the day. But then reality sets in, right? And then the everyday life sets in, and the rest of sets in, and then how do you get through with it? How do you stick with it? How do you make sure that book does get finished? How do you make sure that symphony does get written? How do you make sure that the musical does get up and running and that film gets done? Because it's a hard work.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what I struggle with, and this is more of a high school struggle for me, because you would get the same amount, I would get the same amount of like dopamine or serotonin, the same satisfaction from saying, I have this idea and I'm going to do this, as I would to get it done. Because I would get that rush from going like, I've had this great idea. I'm going to make a magazine. I'm going to do a comic.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's really good. And then you have all that trudgery to actually do the project.
Exactly.
Before you get that fun thing at the end again.
Yes.
Whereas if you just keep having a new idea, you just have
it's exciting.
Fun time.
I'm so creative. Look at all the ideas I have.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that I've struggled with like my whole life, because I've had lots of great ideas.
Yes.
And the means to do it. Like that's the thing. We all have computers. We all have pen and paper. I have lots of creative friends.
Yeah.
So like the possibility is there. It's not
of course it is.
It's not like, oh, I can't create a computer game because I just don't have the coding ability or anything. But it's like, if it comes to like writing a comic, I can write a comic, and I have friends who can draw a comic.
Exactly.
And I know a person who can print it. And
Yep. So what's stopping you?
It's virtually done.
Yeah, it's already done.
Yeah, in my head.
In your
done.
head, yes, that's
Therefore,
exactly.
I don't actually have to do it.
Yeah, and you get high on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, coming up with great ideas is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's the execution part I want to talk about today.
Yeah. So
how do you execute it?
Do you have a? I can tell you how I do it.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Sure. So I plan basically. Yeah. That is my go-to, is like, if I have an idea that I latch onto, I'm like, okay, this is something that would reward me creatively in the process as well as in the execution. Yeah. So along the way, I'm going to get enjoyment at this stage, and at this stage before I get to the final stage.
Yeah.
Some of that is also collaborating. Yes. I find that I get a lot of energy and positive reinforcement by having someone else enjoying the process with me, and someone who can feed me energy when I'm feeling drained,
and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And accountability, of course, is a big part of that as well.
Yeah,
because it's so easy to sit there and dream of your own idea, and then the next morning, I'm not feeling so well today. I'll do it like, tomorrow.
Yeah,
mañana. You know,
a little bit of a hangover. I'll write it tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes. Right? It's just
I guess the other my other step to overcoming this is like setting an end point.
Yes.
So if it's an ongoing project or
Yes.
something that doesn't have like, okay, my book is published, and then you're done with it.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I want to achieve? At what point do I reassess and go, this is no longer worth it?
Okay.
Or this is still an ongoing process, which is worth it for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why that's why some projects kind of fall to the wayside, because they get to the point where it's like, okay, at this point, it's no longer worth it, so we're just going to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that project. But to me, that doesn't always feel like a failure, because I'm now associating the process of getting the job done with achievement, with success.
Yeah.
So taking the first steps to writing the outline for a podcast, and then figuring out the format, getting the music together, doing the first few episodes, all of those are success points.
Yes.
That that are part of a bigger project overall. And whether or not the podcast goes all the way through to the end, or is ongoing in forever and evermore, that is almost irrelevant, because the success that comes from the process. And that's kind of how I tricked my brain into actually doing the work, and breaking it down into small success points, rather than like, I have to write a whole novel before I get to congratulate myself on what I've done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to write 1 page.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, so basically sit down and go, what is required to do this project?
Yes.
Whether it's a book or directing or whatever. And then one by one, hit those success markers, hit those success markers, hit those success markers.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit them, don't throw it away.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, I didn't hit that. Let's make it up.
Yeah.
Because it is always just a matter of like, someone has to do the work.
Yeah.
And if this project is worth it to you, push through. Yeah.
And here comes the question. So how many other projects are you handling at the same time?
Many. Very, very
that's
many.
the human thing, right? Because if you're creative, you like to do something a little bit over here, a little bit over there, a little bit over there, a jack of all trades. We talked about the different episode, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly you've committed yourself, so you keep failing everyone and yourself because you've overcommitted yourself. Are you finding that sometimes?
Okay. Well, let's, again, maybe a little bit of an overshare, but my first big mental breakdown happened because I was overcommitted.
Okay.
I was performing in two musicals and 1 play. I was writing and conceiving another musical, and I was producing two other theatrical experiences.
At the same time.
So
are you in? No. I know your name is Zane, but are you insane?
Yes, well, exactly. It drove me insane. I literally, at any given day, I usually had to be in 2 places at once. So I was literally sacrificing one project for another and juggling that for months on an end. And it ended up with me just having to give it all away because I couldn't cope.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the problem. And you let so many other people down. They start getting annoyed at you and you start, oh no, it'll be better tomorrow. And then tomorrow, it's just,
Yeah. And so that's again,
fewer projects is the thing here.
I think it's more focused projects.
Yes.
Because a lot of those projects, like the when I was conceiving musicals or conceiving plays, there's no end date.
Conceiving, is that the word you use?
Yeah. So
I get it. Well, I would say writing,
so
but
we were adapting a computer game into what would be a musical.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, we have no set, we have no stage, we have no theater to perform this in. It really is just a matter of collaborating to figure out what it's going to be before we can stage it. And so it was very amorphous.
Yeah.
And I think that is what more than anything drains my batteries is when like, I don't know how I can contribute to this project. And therefore I'm just stressing about, I haven't contributed enough.
Yeah.
So that's why it comes back to after that, when I kind of got back up on my feet and I started doing projects again, it was very much a point of like, what is expected of me? Can I achieve it? And in what segments will I achieve it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then comes the other difficult, or step 3 or 4 in the whole process here. Then suddenly you're going to work with other human beings, which is amazing, but can also be very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because they don't do what you tell them to do.
Yes, I have been called a control freak.
Yes.
In the past and probably will be again in the future. And I think it's just a matter of acknowledging how you work.
Yes.
And we spoke about this when we spoke about collaborators. It's like, I know that I have a tendency to do everything because I know that I will do it, firstly, and I know that I will do it to a level that I'm comfortable with.
Yes.
And if someone else is doing it, I don't know what level it's going to get done to. So for my own my own brain, I would prefer to do it. And my brain makes that trade-off of like, do more work, but know what the reward is going to be at the end.
Yeah.
But that is part of the planning process now when I approach a project is like, who am I working with? What am I going to ask of them?
Yes.
And where do I draw the line of like, they are not contributing enough or I'm contributing too much? What is the balance? And that's something to, again, negotiate beforehand. And that can be the first success point is really like, okay, this is the project. This is what we're doing.
Yes.
Rather than just like, yes, let's do it. And just like jumping into the fight and not knowing who's doing what and where everything is ending up.
Yes. Okay.
What about yourself? Like, how do you set a goal? How do you set a goal and keep it?
Well, there's all these promises I've made in the late night hours, right? I'm a night owl and everything looks rosy. Everything is great. And you can just do it. The world is yours for your taking. Yep. What could possibly go wrong, right? And then, as I say, reality sits in. Just like you, I've been a jack of all trade, and that is what a producer is by definition, because you have to understand all the different elements, whether it's creative or production-wise, distribution-wise, financing, sales, all those things. So as I've gotten older, I've gotten to know myself a little bit more, right? And I know that's a long process getting to know yourself because I got the rest of my life to figure it out.
Well, that's the thing. It's an ongoing thing.
It is a work in progress. Let's put it that way.
Because you keep changing as well.
I do. Yeah. I keep adapting and changing, and thank God for that. So for me, it's more about the amount of projects I've come home and told my wife about and that never succeeded. But then again, a lot has. So it's you can't win them all. Yeah. And for every hit you have a lot of failures as well. Yeah. And as people who listen to this podcast regularly will know, we talk about our top 3 list. And one of my top 3 is all the businesses I've tried to start that failed. And there's a lot. And I couldn't write a whole page. I couldn't. There's just so many that failed. Yeah. But then again, some other ones succeeded. I think it's about being realistic and about figuring out what you want to do. And right now I'm in a stage where things are changing for me income-wise, what I'm doing. So I'm looking for other ways of getting income. Yeah. Because, money is never guaranteed. And I'm getting more savvy about what I want to do and what I don't want to do. Yeah. It's no longer sounding cool. It's no longer is easy. It's all about, will I be passionate about this? Will I be excited about this? Will I do this to help? Will this make me happy? Yeah. Right? And the human connection is there. And maybe I'm oversharing here, but you and I talked about that I can help you, right? Yeah. And so one of the ways I can help you is try and get new people come in and use the studio. You've got this amazing studio and more people should use it. Yeah. And I like that because I like you, so I'm helping you. And if I get more clients in helping you, you get happy, the client get happy, and Absolutely. I get happy. So so products like that excites me. And it's a product that is, I wouldn't say limited in scope because nothing is limited, but the process of doing it is actually simple once you understand the technicalities behind it. Yeah. And as I explained to you right before we're on, building you a landing page, right? Setting everything up, look nice. People click, book a free call. They book a call with me. I run them through everything. And if they're ready, they can talk to you. Yeah. So I filter them and I run all the ads and all that stuff. So for that point of view, I like that because you and I get to talk about it, but also I help you. So that's one business idea right now that I'm working on that I'm excited about. I'm doing that also for some other people as well. So it's a process that works. It's fun, and I help people, and there's a accountability element into it. Yeah. And if they make money, I make money. If you don't make money, I don't make money. So it's we're all winning together, right? I like there's nobody. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on, and then we're doing podcasts. We're doing this podcast, and we're doing this other podcast together, and we haven't even talked about that on this. But if anybody's interested in marketing,
we have SEO or
exactly.
PPC.
We have a podcast called Memorable Marketing by Media Group, and we're going to put the show notes in here. And that's how you and I met, because you're the producer of that.
Yeah.
And I bring you in at the end of it. But I interview people in the marketing space for this company that I work with. And I'll put it in the show notes. So again, it's a limited product. It's fun. It's something I can do. So it's about looking for those options for me from a business point of view, but also from a creative point of view, and creating a landing page for you, running some ads, setting it up. I feel like it's creative. I mean, it's not writing a book, it's not writing a symphony, but it's creative enough to get my juices flowing. Yeah. And I like that. So
it sounds to me like you like to think on your feet as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas I'm very much more the sit down, figure out what the process is, and then work through it. You like to have an overall idea of what the process is, and then jump in.
Oh, I jump in before I can. I look before I jump. There's no doubt about it. I commit myself, but then I'll figure it out. I know I'll figure it out, and then. Is it going to be this domain name? There's a lot of technical things needs to be sorted out, but it's something that will happen as you cover ground by ground. You figure it all out. You can't sit and plan it all from a theoretical point of view if you don't have the practical experience. Yeah. And the only way to sometimes get the practical experience is by actually doing it, right? We talked about learning how to swim, right? You can read about it, or you can theorize about it, but once you get into the water, you will not know what to do, right?
That's how I learned how to podcast. There wasn't any how-tos when I started doing it. It was just a matter of like going in, doing everything wrong, and figuring it out.
Exactly. And that's the only way to do it, I think sometimes. So, yeah.
I mean, there's also, I've done a little bit of improv in my background, so improv comedy.
Yeah.
There's a concept in improv, which is celebrate failure. So when something fails, so like you've started a project and you've got so far through it, but then for whatever reason, it doesn't come to fruition. Rather than beating yourself up over it, celebrate the fact that you started something, you had an idea, you've actually learnt everything that you've had to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so when you approach something in the future, you have that experience.
Yes.
And whether or not it was all positive or negative, you've learnt how to approach that.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've had some joy along the way as well. So that you can go like, look, it didn't work, but that was really fun.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's, for me at least, and obviously there's different currencies in life, right? There's dollars in the bank account, but there's also happiness and love and satisfaction and fulfillment. And there's all these other currencies that you might draw on or not draw on. But for me, it's also going to be fun.
Yeah.
If it's not fun, what's the point? I mean, it's just you look at my bracelets. My daughter made me this bracelet. It's very colorful.
It's very colorful.
It's very colorful. So you got distracted right there. So yeah, for me, it has to be fun. And that's part of who I am, because if I don't having fun, nobody's having fun. And then what's the point?
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not talking badly about people who sell insurance, because I did that once, so I can talk about it. But if that's your thing, go do that. But it's.
I've met people who are passionate about insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
And that's the thing. Like,
if you are, exactly.
If it ticks your boxes,
exactly.
Go.
So that's a good way of looking at it. It's not about this, but it's my perception of it, because I did sell insurance once, which was I did not like it. One bit.
Yeah. Look, I've done door-to-door sales, and it's like. You could not pay me enough money to do that ever again.
No.
But that's the thing. We're creative people.
Yeah.
We like latching onto creative concepts, whereas other people are very logical people, and they love the fact that you can give them a spreadsheet and give them a list of needs from a customer, and they can make it all make sense, and everyone's happy at the end. And that's a form of creativity that I don't particularly relate to.
Yeah.
I love a good spreadsheet, but but that's pretty much as far as that goes for me.
Exactly.
So I think that is the idea of setting a goal is not beating yourself up if it fails.
No.
Accepting what has happened and learning from it.
Learn from it. I think the most important thing is learn from what did we learn here that we can use next time we're standing in a similar situation, or we want to try something new or different again. Yeah. What can we apply from here that we learned? Because it's so easy to look at all the failures, and we all have failures. I mean, failing is it's human. I mean, it's part of human life. If you don't fail, I mean, when you're a little kid learning how to walk, you will literally fail. You will fall. You will hurt yourself, but thank God your bones are made of rubber, so it has no lasting effect, right? But you have to take all those falls in order to learn how to walk.
Yep.
Same riding a bicycle, right? Same driving a car. Hopefully no crashes, but the analogy that you keep falling, you keep learning and keep doing mistakes until you get better at it. And I think that's part of human endeavor. We're not robots. I mean, we have to learn. So embracing the misery, the failures, the goals, the successes, and the failures.
I mean, by all means embrace the misery, but like try to convert that misery into a lesson, and then you can celebrate it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So has the time come for us to discuss our top 3s, which are goals that we've set that we may or may not have achieved?
Yes, I think it is. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So my first goal is I wanted to do a daily podcast.
Yeah.
And I knew going into it that this was going to be a big commitment, and I was planning well in advance, and it went okay. It was called An Assemblage of Grandiose and Bombastic Grandiloquence, which it was just an etymology podcast.
Yeah.
It was about 4 minutes an episode.
Yeah.
And I was presenting in a very weird British accent, and it was kind of a bit of a character, a bit of I love language, and so that was tying into this. But it ended up just being too much.
Yeah.
Like it went from a daily podcast to a twice a week podcast. And then at that point it was like, I cannot keep up with this. I cannot keep up with the schedule.
No.
And what I learned from that is like, it was a scripted podcast, and that kind of podcast takes so much more time.
Preparation.
Behind the scenes.
I was about to ask, because one thing is to sit down and just talk, but if you have to prepare, I mean, the research that goes into it, and as a script, yes, because you need to etymology. Sorry,
etymology.
Yes.
Yep.
So you need to at least do the research and then plan it out, because you're playing on words, right?
And then you want to make it a little bit funny.
Yeah.
And so like that's the thing. Like every episode for 4 minutes of content might have taken an hour and a half, 2 hours to create.
Yeah.
And that is over a week, and then over a year, and over a month. So we went for about 50 episodes. So that was an achievement. And that was when I said, okay, at this point, let's reevaluate, see what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, let's let it go.
Okay.
And that was an experiment. And by all means, it was a successful experiment. I found out I could do it, and the amount of work involved. And then I made the judgment that amount of work is not something I could maintain ongoing. And so I let it go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it did come to fruition.
Yeah.
But it's not an ongoing project the way that I wish it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to take it up again? Is there going to be a season 2 at some point? Or
There definitely could be.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of research that I've done that hasn't been turned into episodes.
Yeah.
So that it's definitely on the cards.
Yeah.
But something would have to change with my day-to-day schedule.
Yeah.
To be able to bring it back.
And did you do it by yourself, or were you with someone else?
I did it by myself, and then I had another person who came in about 10 episodes in to do the writing for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would do the research, she would do the writing, and then I would record the episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of producing it, the post-production was easy because it's only 4 minutes.
Yes,
that was not the hard part. It was the research. It was not talking, because once you were doing it, the flow was there. You were enjoying the 4 minutes of recording. It was all the time that went into researching it, and that was a huge commitment.
Yeah.
Wow, ambitious.
Yeah. And I knew that going in,
Yeah.
and that's why I was like, I'm gonna have 20 episodes done and in the can before I even start recording. So I have 4 weeks of leeway.
Yeah. But slowly it snuck up on you, didn't it?
Well, it was just like, we had to miss it. We missed a session where we were working on an episode. So we got like 2 episodes behind, then we got 4 episodes behind. Luckily, we never got to a point where we were missing posting episodes.
Okay.
But we got to a point where we can't keep this up. So let's stop it at 50, and we'll reassess.
So lesson learned here: if there's ever going to be a season 2, how often is the podcast going to come out?
I would probably do it twice a week.
Twice a week.
I think would be ideal, or have a once a week, but with longer episodes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So what about you? What was project that you set?
My first big goal, which was a collaborative goal, was making my first film.
Mm-hmm.
As listeners who listened to this podcast before, I've produced 8 films. And this was my first one producing in Denmark, called a film called The 18th. And I've mentioned a couple of things before in other podcasts, but this was the film that we thought we were making a short film that turned into be a feature film.
Yep.
And again, that was determined by the length of the script, and we didn't know that, and that was told by a producer of ours. And this producer friend of ours, well, we didn't know him. I called him up on the phone, and he happened to answer it, and he happened to have seen a small short film he saw the night before on a local TV station. He read the script, and he said, "This is a feature film. It's really good." And then he said, "Listen, you should go and see this such and such person at the Danish Film Institute. I'm going to send the script to him and recommend he reads it." And then this other guy, this producer in Denmark, his name is epiphany. Amazing man, wonderful man. He was the one who's the first producer and he went in and said, "Listen, you should, Jørgen Jungdal, which is another, I'm now coming up with all these Danish names, who was another, he was a person working for the Danish Film Institute. Mm-hmm. And he said, "This is amazing. This is really good. I want to support this. I'm going to give you guys $100,000. And we were like, "That's a lot of money. We're $100,000." But when you start making a film, $100,000 is not a lot of money. But for us, it was like fortune. And then Ibtidin said, "Well, there's also this guy out at the Danish national TV station. His name is Zane, perhaps, and you should also talk to him." And he sent the script, and he also read it and came back within a week and said, "This is amazing. I'm going to give another $100,000. Suddenly we're up $200,000. Yeah, this is insane. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?" Right? And it just kept growing from there and from there. And it's a film it's a story of three. The film is about 3 stories about 3 people who crossed their path on a very unique day in Danish history. Mm. On the 18th of May, 1993, there was a European election of whether we should be part of the European Union in a continued elaboration or not. And it was a small majority of yes. And previous to that, we've had another referendum where we said no, and then they came back and asked again, and we said yes, and we just continued. And there was a lot of people who were very rebellious about that. Yeah. And there was a lot of fighting in the streets. And the police fired 113 shots at protesters. Wow. In peaceful Denmark. So the 18th of May, which is this famous day, that's the day where these 3 story characters crosses their path. Long story short, it came out. Only 5,000 people saw it in Denmark. It was never a big hit, even though we had a future prime minister in the film and lots of other people who played themselves. But it got sold to Norway, it got sold to Germany, it got sold to Spain, it got sold to lots of countries, and it won a lot of festivals, and it won a lot of money, actually. Yeah. And it was our first film, and it was just pleasure making it, and it was just such a difficult project because the director was a first-time director, the DP, the director of photography, first time, the producer, which was me, was first time. All of us, everything was just first time for everyone, and it was such a collaborative effort, but we did it. Yeah. And I was 24, 25 when the film came out. So it was a relatively young age at the time to come out and produce your first film, but it was just such an amazing achievement, and I was immensely proud of it. And it is still a good film. I don't think you can find it anywhere. It came out in the time before DVDs, I think. I think it never made its way to DVD. It was still on VHS
Well, now
tapes.
you got to get it up on streaming.
I don't own the film. Life. Someone else it's a long story, but it's up to them to do that. But so I'll link that in the show notes. Okay. Yeah. I will link to your podcast studio. If anybody's looking for a podcast studio, you don't have to be based in Brisbane. If you are anywhere in the world, you want a great producer like Zane to work with you. I'll link that in there, how to contact us about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, if you need a landing page and some leads coming through every week, I'll be putting that up there as well.
So that's a successful goal. It
was a goal that succeeded, which I was very proud of.
It was a goal that evolved over time as well.
It was a goal that kept evolving, and I just never. The goalpost kept getting moved. Mm. And not by my design, by other people coming in and giving us feedback. And I think the film ended up costing $600,000, $500,000. So yeah, it was we got some more money, and anyway, and we made it. Nobody got paid on the film.
Of course.
No,
No one
it was
does.
just impossible.
It's a creative project.
Yeah, I remember a very famous actor. I won't say his name here. He said, "Sure, I'll come help you guys," but he needed a case of beer every day. That was sort of his payment. So I had to call Carlsberg, and they came and donated 50 cases of beer. And I can tell you, with a case of beer, you can get a lot of stuff done. It's a great payment. Show up at somebody's door with a case of beer.
Don't worry.
People do everything.
I'm Australian.
Yeah.
We know how that works.
And I'm just saying it's a very powerful currency, okay? Because $200, $100, no, a case of beer. All right, I'll do it. Okay. So yeah, that was a currency I traded in. So
yeah, well, my next one was a successful project. So a group of friends and I, we were doing a musical together.
Yeah.
And we had this idea to do a 24-hour musical where we rehearse and stage a full musical in 24 hours.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Yes. We got the idea from a summer camp that one of them had worked at that did a similar thing, but with like summer camp kids.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do it with real people, real professionals in real theater.
Yeah.
So that was 7 years ago, and there's been one ever since.
Hey, you're doing one this year?
I'm not doing it. I'm involved in the production, but yes, we've done 2 this year. There was one in April. There's going to be one in October.
Wow.
Because we missed one in 2020 because of COVID.
Yeah.
Basically we had to conceive this never before attempted project, figure out how it actually works, how you compress everything into that shorter time span. And what the actual logistical side of like keeping everyone up for about 30 hours.
Yeah.
And keep them active and on the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
That's a big success. Like the whole project was basically to bring the theater community in Brisbane together, because it's not a theater company, so there's no allegiances there.
Okay, and also it's a fun product because it's limited in scope. It's not like it's going to, hey, we need your time the next 3 months. No, it's 24 hours.
48 hours usually.
Yeah, okay.
Because you need to sleep afterwards. And it's been a great success.
Oh,
Everyone
nice.
loves it.
I want to come see it this year.
Well, it is on, as of time of recording, this weekend.
Oh, this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I got to put my money where my mouth is, huh? Yeah. Commitment. What is it, on Saturday or?
It's on Sunday evening.
Sunday evening.
But Monday is a public holiday, which is how it's worked out nicely.
Okay.
But yeah, usually they're in April, but the 2020 project got pushed to October this year.
All right.
Yeah. The 24-hour musical, it was a big project. There were 6 of us involved in the core group.
Yeah.
But overall, like every project has about 150 people involved.
Wow.
Over the 48 hours.
So they write fresh music and fresh screenplay?
No. So it's a licensed musical. So it could be like Hairspray or Wicked or whatever.
So it's an existing
property.
Yes.
Yeah.
That people can either know about, or there's a script exists that you can work off with music and everything.
We tend towards musicals that aren't very well known, just because that's more fun.
Okay. Well, good on you for doing that.
Yeah.
So what's a musical is it this year?
No one knows until the day.
Of course not.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
We can't tell them what it is.
This podcast will go live after
it will.
On Sunday.
It will.
So,
but you're going to have to be surprised on the day.
Got it.
I will say it is set in the 1920s. I believe.
All right. Great guess.
So it's a classical musical.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So my next thing I want to talk about is all the stuff I failed at.
Okay.
So I mentioned, and this is more from the business side. So if you're creative as a producer, at the end of the day, we need to pay our bills, right? Yeah. We need to figure out money. And when I produce films on the 18th, we didn't make any money. Some sales came in, which fueled our next film where we got paid, and then so forth and so forth. But I've also, because film business is just such a unstable business to be in. I mean, it's just, you never know. I mean, you can be up until 24 hours before shooting starts and everything can fall apart. It's just happened on numerous films. So I've always had to dabble into other businesses and try to keep things alive. And I just want to go through a lot of stuff that I've tried. It's just the last 5 or 10 years. One point I was running a microgreen A little thing with my wife. We were growing microgreens in our garage.
Awesome.
Which was fun. And it was a 12-day turnaround from planting the seeds, soaking them, to harvesting them and trimming them to go and sell it. And I had several clients. The Sanford Hotel out in Sanford Valley.
Oh, cool.
They took 1.5 kilos every week. But then the chef there, he went on to work in a mine somewhere, as you do in Australia. Then the new chef didn't care about it. And then after they were like, okay, well, we were not making a lot of money. It sort of paid itself, but it was a fun little side project. Could have grown bigger, could not have grown, but it took, the big mistake we made was we chose a seed, sunflower seed, which is a beautiful seed. But the problem is when it grows, the seed is still stuck to its head. So you have to manually remove that.
Oh,
and that is very time consuming. Yeah. And my wife were going very frustrated with it. And we made like $7,500 a week. It's not exactly, not exactly something you can live off. And we had some costs associated with it, but it was a fun little project. My first company I thought of when I was about 16 years old. I wanted to, I don't know, gun is my head. I wanted to clean people's phones. It was the weirdest, dumbest thing. So going to companies and try to clean their phone. I mean, why would you want to clean the whole thing? Not just phones.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why I came up with that concept. I ordered all these special napkins that could do it, but I never got a client. And I
cleaning their keyboards is a greater idea.
Yes, but I was 16 and not very smart at the time, so I didn't know. So the last 5 years I spent, if not, I wouldn't say 1,000 man hours, but lots and lots and lots of man hours on trying to set up a film fund.
Okay.
A film fund based out of a country in Europe. I'm not going to go into details here. And we were so close, and yet we're still so far. And I had to walk away from this project 2 or 3 months ago. It was very painful to do because I invested so much time with 3 other business partners, but it was no longer self-supporting, self-serving, and there was a falling out and blah, blah, blah. It's just one of those things where it doesn't work. And but 5 years of my time, we developed properties, this is not housing, but when we say properties, storylines, concepts,
IP,
comic books, IPs, intellectual properties, and we set the whole thing up, wrote business plans after business plan, and oh my God, I spent so much time on it, and then it didn't work. But, if you don't try that, you'll never know if it's going to work, right?
And now, if you ever want to do it in the future, you have what didn't work and why it didn't work and how it didn't work.
This was €100 million film fund, which is a lot of money, but not a lot of money if you think about it, because if you make a film at €10 million, that's only 10.
That's 10%.
That's only 10 films, right? So we're coming up with some very innovative way of doing it. And it was very much fun writing and doing the whole process. But it's just 5 years is a long time to stay motivated on a project. And pulling the plug, I think my wife pulled the plug on it 2 or 3 years ago. I kept going, no, this is going to succeed. It's going to succeed. It's going to happen. But it just didn't. So, and then, that's just some of the things. I have so many business plans. It just didn't work. It's just to give you some. So it's okay to fail. It's okay. And it's okay to spend a lot of time on something and walk away at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing. You have to make that call. Do you ever feel, after that point, do you ever feel relief?
Yes. Relief and not dealing with
you don't have to stress anymore.
Yes. Because there was 4 people on this thing here, and me and another person had done film before, and there was 2 other people who had never done film before and wanted to be part of it, and they didn't understand the process, and it was mentally challenging to constantly tell them how things work step by step. In hindsight, maybe we should have worked with them, maybe we should have, I don't know, but they were the ones who could get access to the money and blah 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 blah. But it's hard to, when you're not in sync. And there's also cultural difference. It's hard to keep going at it. And so there was a sense of relief pulling it back at it, and I don't have to deal with them anymore.
No, absolutely.
And it's not because they're bad people. It's not. I'm not saying that. It's just saying it was very draining. From an energy point of view.
And that's what I try to dwell on as the silver lining when these projects fall away.
Exactly.
Is like, okay, I can now take a moment to not worry anymore.
So me and the other producer, we threw in the towel and we said, no, this is it. So we're talking about doing something else. He's currently writing a book, and some of the IPs we developed, we're going to turn into a comic book at some point and see if that works. So if you gave me the name of that comic book painter and the printer, no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
We're going back to early high school now. I would struggle to remember their
I'm just
names.
joking.
Okay, well, I guess my final one is a project, is a goal that I set that has changed so many times, and it is my podcast collective, which is That's Not Canon Productions.
Yeah.
I started it basically as just as a website for me to host my own podcasts, and that turned into me hosting my friends' podcasts as well. Then I wanted to turn it into me helping people get their podcasts up and running. So if people in Brisbane, because I had all the equipment, I had the expertise, and I wanted to practice, getting podcasts working, they would come to me and I would help them get through the process of that. And then that kind of turned into me starting this kind of social group around podcasting and helping people like promote their podcasts. And then now is finally, and what I think is its final form, is a podcast collective. So we have international podcasts from all over, and it's a bunch of resources that, because we've all pooled our resources together, we can afford to get access to and share. But that is not what my goal was to start with. My goal was to have a website that I can put my podcasts on. And that's kind of evolved and turned into, and like, I still technically have a website that I can put my podcasts on, but the goalpost kept shifting.
Yes.
And I think definitely parts of it, like the part where I'm actively involved in getting independent podcasts up and running, is not so much a part of it anymore.
Okay.
The majority of people who want to join the collective already have podcasts up and running, and that's what they're doing. And so I think that is an example of like a goal that just kind of took on a life of its own, almost from the very start. Yeah. And I think that kind of reflects podcasting as an industry rather than my particular input into it. Yeah. I started out as with the idea of it being a true collective, in like, we have these resources, let everyone use them. Yeah. That turned into me buying a whole bunch of resources and letting everyone use them. And then now it has turned more into the actual collective, and it has more of a life of its own now, where everyone kind of contributes. We have access to all these resources. Awesome. And so that
sounds a little bit like Francis Ford Coppola in American Zoetrope. He bought all this equipment for filmmakers, and everybody could come and play around with it. Problem is, all the equipment disappeared and never returned, and he was trying to trust people to do it. But that's awesome that you did that. Awesome. What drew you to podcasting? Why podcasting?
I came up as a graphic designer, and I always wanted to have my own magazine, basically. Then I discovered podcasts way back when, and then it just kind of shifted from magazine publishing to podcast publishing. I think podcasting is a much more approachable medium. Yes. There's a lot less hoops that you have to jump through. There's a lot less gatekeeping and red tape. Yes. And I think that's why I kind of leant towards the collective side of things as well, because literally anyone with a microphone and access to the internet can have a podcast.
Yes, it's
and that's what I wanted to encourage.
I like that. I like that. What I like about podcasts, being an avid podcast listener myself, and also now doing two podcasts, is that when you listen to a podcast, you get to the emotions come through, right? Yeah. You don't know the other person talking, but you start getting a sense of who they are. You start recognizing their voice. You start recognizing their tonality, and you start recognizing when they're talking about what they're passionate about. You can hear it. You can truly hear it, and it's like a friend you don't have. If that makes sense.
If you want to put the scientific label on, it's called a parasocial relationship.
A parasocial relationship.
It's not an actual social relationship, but it's adjacent to.
Shall we put that on your landing page?
Well,
okay.
It is there, just in nicer words.
I'm just joking because I'm literally in the middle of writing all this stuff for you right now. I like that parasocial relationship. I like it. It's just good when I'm walking or doing the chores or hanging the clothes or emptying the dishwasher or, doing the laundry, doing the lawn mowing or whatever it is I'm doing or biking or driving to work. It's just, I love listening to a podcast. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so what, do you have a final, or was that your...
No. I was just asking you about your podcast, why you chose that. Yeah. And also, if somebody's listening out now, thank you so much for listening to our voices. Hopefully you find this pleasant.
Please. I will be your friend, most likely, if you reach out.
Zane is a lovely guy. So he is a very good friend to have. My last on my top 3 is when I did my second feature film, which was called Possessed, which the 18th was more of a drama. Possessed is more of a thriller. The basic story was some nefarious being could jump from body to body. Mm-hmm. And whenever that happened, lights went out, there would be a power switch, and that's how you knew somebody had jumped. And then these people were trying to chase it down, including a doctor. And we shot in Romania and Transylvania, of all places, and all that stuff. Anyway, when that film was done, the director and I had a falling out, unfortunately. We're friends to this day, but the film went over budget, very much over budget. He was afraid that he was going to be financially committed and blamed it all on me. And we can talk forth and back, but he was the one running the set. So
yeah.
Anyway, we since he and I need a job, so I went to the biggest producer in Denmark called Peter Olbæk Jensen, and said, "Look, we had a falling out on this film, and they were co-producing it, so I had to tell him about it." And then he bought my other film, the rights to that film, and he said, "You come work for me now, and you're going to start running our sales company." So he just started a film sales company, and I was like, "What is that?" "Well, you go and sell films internationally, and by the way, you have to be in Berlin, you go to Cannes and start preparing for all that stuff." And 2 films are coming out. And the first one was Lars von Trier's The Idiots. And the second film was Epiphany. And then the third film was, I'll link to all these films in the show notes. Epiphany, which is, it's an amazing film by Søren Kragh Jacobsen. I might have mentioned him before. And then the third film was a little Swedish film called Fucking Åmål. And it was called Fucking Åmål because there's a little town in Sweden called Åmål, and the main character don't like living in fucking Åmål.
Yep. Yeah.
We have to change the title in the US, but that's a different story. Anyway, this had no idea what the sales company was going to be. And the first film festival I went to was Berlin, and I had no experience in selling films. I understood because I sold my own film to Germany so I sort of understood the vagueness of it. But the film screening we had, the first film screening, 200 people showed up in my booth. I mean, this is unheard of. Normally you have one person showing up. Maybe if you're lucky, one person will show up. We had 200 people standing in line, shouting and screaming and yelling. Everybody wanted to buy the film. And this turned into this buying frenzy in Berlin that has not been seen for a long time since. And it was a baptism by fire. And it was just me and my boss, the owner of this company. And we got on a map and we grew it into one of the biggest and most successful sales companies on the planet at the time in Europe. And we got awarded by European Union, and it was just amazing. And I was there for 2 years, and I loved it. And of course I left to do something else.
And I mean, that sounds like a goal that was ended in failure, turning into a new goal that ended in success.
For me, it's always like one door closes, that means another door is opening. So if something is failure, it's not mean it's over. Something else pops up, and go out and find it. When the student is ready to learn, the master will show up. That's how I see it. So it's a little story about sometimes you just stumble into things, and this was definitely one of those examples.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you, Zane.
It has been a long episode, but I've been wrapped the whole way through, and maybe I've spoken a little bit too much. But
that's all right.
Let us know about your current goals and whether you're confident in achieving them and how you go about doing it. Because obviously, Thomas is much more of the jump in and figure it out on his feet, and I'm much more of the sit down, plan it out beforehand. And I'm interested in hearing what other people do to meet their goals.
Is there a third way? We don't understand. Is there a third way?
have already succeeded
Yes.
and then work backwards. I think that's the Kardashian model.
I guess so. Yeah.
So you can reach out to us on email, give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or on any of your podcatchers that you can.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you.
Please.
I've been Zane C. Weber here with
Thomas Mine.
and keep being creative, everyone.
Thank you.